A very good a very good morning to our esteemed speaker, all the teachers, students, and parents in case you have joined. COVID-19 outbreak has led to prolonged home confinement and sedentary lifestyle for all young learners. Combined with disruption in the teaching learning process, this has also contributed to growth of adolescent obesity and associated disorders. With the threat of the fourth wave looming large, this requires immediate attention and awareness for all stakeholders, including parents and educators. So without further ado, I would like to hand over the session to Paramesh Das of Class 8D, who would introduce our esteemed speaker.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, one and all. Research indicates that staying physically active can help prevent or delay certain diseases, including certain types of cancers, heart diseases, and diabetes, and also relieve depression and improve mood. And hence, today's session is dedicated to the celebration of a healthy body and mind. We have the privilege of having with us today Dr. Muhammad Shakil Akhtar, an associate professor in the Department of Pediatrics and Nephrology in the Institute of Child Health. He is an eminent specialist in the field of pediatrics and shall be speaking upon the relevant themes of how to counter obesity as well as adolescent health issues and nutrition for our students, parents, and broader academic community. Sir, I would request you to now take over and share your expertise and provide guidance in these challenging times.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir.
So should we start?
Yes, sir.
Okay, first of all, good morning, everybody. It's a real humbling experience and privilege to join a group of young students and also the parents who have joined here. Very warm welcome and good morning to all of you. First of all, I would like to thank the Mahadevi Birla World Academy, the teachers, the principal who has given me this opportunity to speak on this digital forum on a topic which is very, very important in current situations. Pediatric obesity and the nutritional guidelines have come a long way in a lot of changes that have occurred in the recent times. So I'll discuss in the next couple of minutes regarding the obesity in children and also the how to counter the obesity in the current situations and certain newer nutritional guidelines that has come in recent times. So without further ado, I just go ahead with the problem. With human evolution that has occurred over millions of years, there are certain growing problems in terms of dietary habits and human health. One of the growing problem is of overweight and obesity. And with this current situation, if we continue to have a dietary habit like this, then only God can save this situation. If you look at one of the top three global social burdens which are created by human beings, obesity remains among the top three social burden which is created by us. And it's only next to smoking and wars and violences and terrorism. So what we understand is that obesity is a global problem. The prevalence has recently much increased in recent years. And if you look at certain data from the International Association of Study of Obesity or International Obesity Task Force, these are these associations which deals with the estimating the prevalence. And it is said that 200 million school children are either obese or overweight. So this is really alarming. And what we normally have a perception that obesity generally is a problem of the developed nation. But this is not true. What we have seen that nowadays even the developing country like ours seem to be having an epidemic of obesity, and it rather affects all the socioeconomic groups, whether it's rich or poor, irrespective of age, irrespective of sex, and also ethnicity. So it is basically a becoming a serious public concern, public health concern, and it is affecting a significant proportions of the populations worldwide. And if you look at mortality data, it contributes to 2.6%, 2.6 million, sorry, 2.6 million deaths worldwide every year. And this is something very, very something to be scared about. Now, coming to the Indian scenario, we have the world's second highest number of obese children. We are only next to China, who is basically having about 15 million children, either obese or overweight. So we have next to that, we are very much close to the China. It's 14.4 million, which is very, very high. Now, the recently National Family Health Survey in 2015 and 16 stated that obesity has almost doubled in the last 10 years. Now, this is also something to be really alarmed about. If you look at the prevalence of overweight and obesity, it was just 9.7% in 2001, but it has almost increased more than 2 times till 2010. And if you take the current data, it's rather even more. So if you look at the data again in India, it's 10 to 20% of children are currently overweight or obese in the age group of 5 to 17. And if you rather specifically focus on the adolescent health, then that might increase to even up to 25 to 30%, which is really, really serious. Now, what we need to understand is that these are the children, majority of them who are obese in this age group would rather become obese in the adult life. Now, this is again a serious issue. Almost 2/3 of them will have obesity even in the adult life unless he counteracts or rather works on his obesity. So obesity itself is a mother of so many problems. It has many multiple health issues, which can be acute, which can be on a long-term health basis. Now, when we talk about obesity, first of all, we should understand what do you mean by obesity, what obesity actually is. Now, if you look at the WHO definitions, obesity is defined as the condition of abnormal or excessive fat accumulations in our adipose tissue, and it is to the extent that our health may be impaired. When we talk about obesity, there are criteria of diagnosing what obesity should be. WHO criteria is that which measures BMI, and the BMI above 30 is supposed to be obese. And we have the International Obesity Task Force criteria, which says 25 should be the cutoff. So currently, whatever it is, BMI is the current standard where we measure the obesity. Whereas there are many other formats, there are many other criteria of comparing obesity, like fat ratios, the waist hip ratios, the waist circumference or hip ratio. There are many other things that are done, but those are mostly of research purpose. But BMI continues to be very important tools for measuring our obesity. And how to measure BMI is basically a determinant to measure the obesity and overweight, and it is calculated as weight in kg by height in meter square. And there are two things that I would like to say here. If you look at the current guidelines, previously, nowadays the guidelines has a bit changed. In terms of adults, we calculate BMI and then we rate whether it is in a normal range or overweight or obesity criteria. Now, the criteria set in adults is BMI above 30 is said to be obese, whereas BMI above 25 to 29 is said to be overweight. But in children or in young adults, there are different guidelines where we take into consideration the percentiles. Here, the BMI of 85, more than 85, or 85 to less than 95th percentile is said to be overweight, whereas BMI of more than 95th percentile is said to be obese. There are other criteria of measuring the Z score, which I think it's too complicated for us to make you understand here. Now, just understand how fat cells develop. So when we are growing, basically during growth, the fat cells also increases in number and they also increases in size. Now, this generally occurs when we are taking in excess calories or the foods that we take. This will lead to excessive fat cells growth as well as excessive increase in number of cells. So fat cells has the ability to grow in multiple folds, and this will depend on our dietary modifications. So coming to complications, there are a lot of complications of obesity. Some are acute and some have long-term side effects in our health. There are more threatening things like diabetes in adult, diabetes and hypertension, dyslipidemia. Excessive weight can cause obstructive sleep apnea. The child may have difficulty in sleeping, might have respiratory problems. Long-term effects can be cancer development. In obesity children, they have excessive hormonal growth, which can lead to early puberty. Obesity also has a lot of psychological issues of low self-esteem, depression, anxiety that can have a lot of impact on the growth of children, especially. And obesity is also related to a lot of respiratory problems like asthma. Now, coming to what causes obesity, there are many
Sir,
causes, and these.
Sir, just a second, I'm interrupting you. Your slides are not showing actually. Are you scrolling
Can you
down?
hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you, but the slides aren't showing. It's just the first slide that we can see.
Pardon?
It's just the first slide that we are seeing right now. Are you scrolling down or showing the other slides?
Yeah. I'm sharing my screen. Can you see the screen, please?
Yes, but just the first slide is visible, sir. If you're scrolling through the slides, that isn't visible.
Is my slides moving?
No, sir.
Ma'am, is my slides moving?
No, sir.
No, sir.
It is fixed in the first slide.
Not moving.
Sir, you go to the slideshow mode. I think then it will be better.
Ma'am, is the slide moving?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Just one sec. Ma'am should have told me, ma'am. Is it moving now?
Yes, sir.
Is it moving?
No, sir. Now it is fixed again. Now it is only slide 2.
Not moving?
Sir, press the down arrow, then only it will move in.
Pardon, ma'am?
Press down arrow. Then it will be highlighted.
Yes, ma'am. Scrolling my slides. Can you see the slides?
We can see, but it is only slide 2. Sir, otherwise go to the slideshow option and from there you can do it.
Yes, ma'am. I have done the slideshows. Ma'am, can you see the slides?
That is the first one, the introduction.
Second, third.
No, sir.
And see.
So you can change it manually also through the down arrow. So we can see how to measure obesity now.
Now the slide number 8.
So it's moving on the side panel, but not moving on the main screen.
It's not moving on the main panel.
No, sir. Now it is coming. If you
Now it's coming. Now it's coming. It's moving now. Yes. Yes. So just go slow. Just go slow, sir. And as you speak, take us through the slides.
But I'm just checking whether slides are moving and whether you're
Yes,
able
they're
to see
moving.
them.
They're moving. They're moving.
So, but the moment I'm doing the slideshow, why isn't it moving?
You can
Ma'am,
continue
can
manually.
you now see the thing?
We can see how to measure obesity. That's the main. That's the slide on
The
the
next
main.
slides,
No, it's not
I'm
coming.
moving the slides continuously.
No, it's not coming.
It's not.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Dr. Shakil, you may go on with your talk. Doesn't matter. And if you can move it alongside, it'll be
What I
fine.
do is that Should I continue sharing it in this way?
Yes, do that. Do that. Now it's moving. We can see you've
Okay, I
gone
think
back
I can.
again. We can see now the growing problem. Is this our future? For the next talks, teachers, if you can get the slides beforehand and then you can navigate. So it becomes smoother for the parent also. If the tech team is listening, kindly get the slides beforehand and then assist the parent in the movement of the slides. Are you listening, tech team?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So kindly do that in future. Ask for the slides beforehand and you can help the parent in the screen share and in the technical handling of the slides.
Okay, ma'am.
Dr. Shakil, kindly go on with your talk. We can see, and as you were moving,
Yes, ma'am.
you were moving
Should
the
I go ahead?
slides. Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so I'll just rush through some of the slides which I have already covered, but unfortunately you're not able to see. So what I was just talking about obesity being a
Yes,
issue
sir.
which
So
is
just
pretty
go through the
growing and
main
it's
points
common.
because children.
If you look at the obesity, it's one of the top 3 social burden which has affected the humans. And I was telling you about the global issue that it affects 200 million children worldwide, and it really affects both the developed and the developing countries of all sex and ethnicity. And it's a serious health concern. I was talking about the health scenario in Indian children, which has the second highest number of obese children in the world. And as per the National Family Health Survey, the increase in the obese children has been almost 2 times in the last 1 decade. Obesity in India is very high, that is 10 to 20%, and this rather increases to 30% when you take into consideration of the adults, adolescents. Two-thirds of the children will have obesity even in future life, in adult life, and it poses a long-term health issues in them. Now, I was telling about definitions, which is said to have been abnormal and excessive fat accumulations in the adipose tissue, and this was the definitions given by the World Health Organization. And why how we measure obesity is according to the criteria given by the WHO and also IOTF criteria, which we discussed. BMI of 30 is taken as a cutoff for obesity, and it's a standard of measurements. I was telling about the criteria in adult that is based on BMI, but in children it's more of percentiles where we calculate whether the child belongs to overweight or obesity criteria. Now, overweight being by BMI of more than 85 to 95th percentile, whereas obesity BMI of more than 95th percentile. Coming to fat developments, as I have said, the fat number increases in size, also increases in numbers, and it depends on the dietary patterns of humans. I was telling about complications. It has a lot of acute complications in terms of causing liver diseases, in terms of causing defects in the lipid levels in the body. It also causes long-term complications in terms of causing diabetes, hypertension, liver problems. It can cause early puberty. It has body shaming kind of things in the psychiatric issues, a lot of them having anxiety, depressions. Also, it causes a lot of respiratory problems in future. What are the causes? There are some modifiable causes, whereas some are the non-modifiable causes. There are causes that related to dietary habits that is very common. 95% of the obesity is because of the dietary issues and also the lifestyle that we are now accustomed to. So lack of physical activity, sedentary lifestyles contributes to this. Also accompanying the kind of urbanizations, the kind of addiction to technology like mobiles, TV addictions, these are some of the contributing factors. Besides, there are also environmental factors, the socioeconomic status, they also contribute to childhood obesity. And also parents are the role models, so wrong parental lifestyle or approach has a lot of bearing on children's lifestyle as well. Now, what are the current drivers of obesity? They are portion distortion, the celebrity who endorses these dietary habits, and working parents, and of course, there are addictions to mobiles and other electronic devices. So, if you look at the dietary habits, the kind of fat diets that has come into our houses, uh, it has really contributed to the worsening lifestyle. More of fast foods available now, with thanks to Zomatos and Swiggies, they have come to our bedrooms quite often. And if you look at the endorsement, the kind of advertisement that is given, the bigger, the more, the better, doesn't hold good when it comes to eating habits. So with the same price, you get the bigger junk foods. What they actually do not say that it gives you the much higher calories for your body to cause a lot of ill health. The combo offers also adds to all these woes. When you take in, these junk food in combos, we tend to have huge amount of calories, which are detrimental to our health. Now, with school being closed during the last 2 years, the lockdown, the COVIDs, and this have only added to the kind of lifestyle, having restricted movements, restricted physical activities, and more of these foods delivered to you through the online portals, which has increased to lifestyle issues and also the leading to overweight and obesity. And also, celebrity endorsements by a celebrity promoting all these junk foods leads to rather adverse impact on especially the children and the adolescents, who tend to copy them and who tend to imitate these lifestyle of the celebrities. Now, just to have a glimpse of some of the foods that we eat, the majority of the junk food comes from your snacks. So some of these snacks, just to give you an idea how it really gives you the amount of calories that it puts to your body. For example, serving a pakoda of maybe even 6 pieces, 7 pieces would give you a huge calories of 500, most of them being fats and carbs and some proteins as well. But then they are very, very high in calories. Coming to pizzas and burgers, again, a regular pizza can give you as high calories of 285 and having a huge amount of fats. And if you look at the sodium content, which is again very bad for your body, will be very high. So when you take, for example, the other very commonly snacks, what you eat, samosa, a single samosa can give you 260. So what we understand, most of the junk food, even the snacks, can give you calories which are very high in calories, which are very high in fats, which are very high in salt content, and that can be replaced by a healthy whole meal. Even moodies is fine, but when you consider it, making it jhal moody with a lot of adding of oils, adding of so much of salt, it gives you a high calories. Even Maggie, for say, it's a common food in children nowadays, but then they are packed with huge amount of calories. A wholesome meal can be had, with good amount of nutrition, and the amount of calories that it gives is much less than what you get in something like Maggie or in other junk foods. So look at the namkeens which we eat also has a huge amount of calories. The idea behind giving you of is the fact that there are these are the junk foods which we can avoid, and because they are very packed with high calories and not good nutrition that our body needs. Okay, coming to some calorie tracker, I just want to emphasize again, like if you just read some of the calories, and it is really, really threatening. A single donut can give you 250 calories, which is again very high. A whole meal can give you this amount of calories. A burger can give you 30 calories. So just a list of some of the very high calorie food that we eat in a day-to-day life. Even drinks are not good, because if you look at all the calorie, this cola drinks and other beverages that we drink, they are very packed with high calories and they are not good, because they, in terms of content, they have a very high sugar content that only increases the risk of diabetes, heart problems, and other kidney issues. So what is really concerned is that in recent years there is a current trend of consumption of huge amount of fast foods and sugar containing beverages like fruit juices and drinks. And this is because of the easily availability, they're convenient, they are very palatable, they're very attractively presented, which has good catchy advertisements. They have very vigorous marketing strategies. They are some of the factors why there is a high consumption of these products. If you look at the industry now, the fast food industry has increased over the last couple of years as up to 40% every year. And there are some studies which was done in India from the Center of Science, and it includes 13,200 school children between 9 to 14 years, And it was said that more than 90% of children had packaged food more than once a week. Almost 70% having sugar and sweetened beverages, and up to 25% having very ultra processed food, very high in fat and salts. Almost one fourth of children having these kinds of food in a regular basis. So we need to define what are these undesirable food in terms of nutrient content, that is in terms of calorie content, in terms of fats, sugars, and salts, and also quality in terms of processing, packaging, preservatives being added, and the way it's stored. So there are many terminologies that have come for these kinds of food. Some of them I'll just go through, like fast food, which are readily available for use or consumption, and they have little quality or significance. It's a well-known term which we all know. It basically belongs to all unhealthy foods. But not all fast foods are unhealthy, especially the cut fruits or salads. But then this is the reason we need to think about other terms. So on the other hand, many unhealthy foods will take longer time to prepare. So the next food what we talk about is the junk food. Of course, these are defined like food which may be packed or non-packed, processed or unprocessed, and they have a very little amount of proteins, vitamins, minerals, and fibers. And they are rich in fats, salts, sugar, and they are very high calorie food. And this has negative impact on our health. And they have basically no nutritional values. But these junk foods, by definition, do not involve these foods and drinks. And so there was another term that was introduced in 2015, and that was called HFSS foods, which is not a very popular term which was given. This focused on contents and includes both packaged and non-packaged food. It basically included foods with harmful contents like caffeine. Sorry, it did not include caffeine and other food additives or colored things. So the next uh, kind of food that came into existence was the Nova classification that gives you the classifying the processed foods. What we need to understand is the group 4, which has the ultra processed food. That means the processing has done to the extent of fractioning of the food and addition of so many other things like coloring agents, flavoring agents, and other things that makes the food very high in calories, very high in palatability, but then they are not good for your health. These includes the drinks, the cookies, the chips, candies, and breakfast cereals. So most of the packaged breakfast cereals, although they claim to be very healthy, they are packed with a lot of unhealthy ingredients like sugar, you, and many food has tend to get food in India.
Good morning, children, teachers. I think he's facing network issues, is he, Dr. Shakil?
Yes, ma'am, probably.
Probably network issues, but a lot of things that he's brought to the open today. I just wish that there were more parents joining us this morning because it's a very informative talk. And did you see the number of calories? He's back. Dr. Akhtar is back with us. Kindly take on, and I would really request you, doctor, to have in between a little interaction with our children, because ask them about how many burgers they like to eat and how many they have in a weekday or a weekend, because I think our children love the junk food. So it's okay to have it, but in moderation. I think
Yeah, ma'am.
Yes. Over to you, doctor.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, is the slides moving? Can you see the slides, or like it's like a problem there in technical?
Sir, you
Are
have
you
to,
able
you'll
to
have to
see the
share.
slides?
We were able
Is
to see them.
everybody able to see the slides?
Yes, yes, doctor, we were able to see them.
Unless you say something or interrupt me, otherwise I am not able to know whether like others are listening to, or whether I'm moving the slides, but it's not moving on your side.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you clearly, ma'am. Can you hear me, and can you see the slides moving?
Yes, I have been trying to say this, that we were hearing you and watching everything perfectly. So kindly go on till the network got disrupted.
Okay, okay.
Everything was
So
absolutely
interrupt me in
clear.
between so that I know like people are listening. Okay, okay.
Why aren't
So I was
children
just telling
answering?
you.
Yes. So that's
Yes,
what I
ma'am?
said. If you can kindly have in between, ask the children some questions, then you will immediately understand whether they are listening to you or not. Okay.
Oh, okay, 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 okay. So we have class 6, 7, 8, I guess. These are the children there.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I just move on, and at the end of it, we'll take up a lot of questions. We can interact with them as well. So I was telling you about junk food, which is a new term which was introduced by the Indian Academy of Pediatrics, and this includes a huge lot of
Excuse
food.
me, sir.
Which,
Yeah, the slides are not showing. You'll have to share screen.
okay, okay, okay. I'll just share. 1 minute, ma'am. Can you see the slide?
Yes, sir. Yes. Sir.
Is the slide moving?
No, sir.
Is
We
the
can
slide
see
moving?
junks food.
Okay.
Slide number
It's not
41. That's
moving?
No, sir. It's not moving. So we can
Ma'am, is the
see
slide moving?
it's moving on the left. Yes, sir, it's moving. Need to define
Is
and
the slide moving, ma'am?
identify. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, okay. So I think there's a network issue, so I have just switched off my videos and see if it's coming. Ma'am, I was just telling about the junk foods, and the new term that has come is the junks, which includes J for junk food, which are high in fats, salts, and sugars. U for ultra processed food, N for all nutritionally inappropriate foods, C for caffeinated, carbonated, colored drinks, and S for sugar and sweetened beverage. So this was a new term that has been introduced in 2019. Uh, this nomenclature is used to include all the unhealthy foods which are high in fats, sugars, and salts, and they are harmful, which does not have a good nutritional values. So there is also a traffic color kind of category of food labeling that is being advised by the Indian Academy of Pediatrics. And the green is the one which belongs, the green should have been, the menu there should be taken in liberal amounts. That includes the whole grain and the high fiber containing foods. The fruits and vegetables are included, whereas the yellow group belongs to food which should be taken in small proportion, and the red one belongs to the junk foods like drinks, energy drinks, and all kinds of processed foods that needs to be very much limited in our daily intake. So if you look at the consumption pattern in Indian studies, they say that it's a very high percentage of children takes these kinds of high calorie food up to the level of 80 to 90% and even beyond 90%. So every other child consume packaged food and beverages at least once daily. So there are other studies which says a high percentage of children, even globally, if you see almost 50% of children have takes junk food as on a regular basis. So what are the factors why there is increase in consumption of all these junks is because India now has high percentage of young populations. They have increased urbanizations and more and more availability of such foods which has come to our rooms. There's a growing middle class, the nuclear families, good rising disposable income. Eating out is now kind of fad. Also, more and more women, now is a working class, so leading to decline in home-based food at times. And then there is a so easily online delivery system of food being delivered to your house. So the harmful effects are very huge. These foods have huge amount of calories, huge amount of sugars, fats, and saturated fats mainly, and they have a lot of salts. Now these are very bad for your health. So on the whole, it leads to obesity and also overweight in children. Now we have also caffeinated drinks. I'm sure a lot of children like these drinks, especially the growing children. They take to all kinds of drinks, energy drinks, but then they are detrimental in terms of your weight. They are bad for your, they cause mental stress, cause sleep deprivation if you take too much of caffeine, and also can cause psychological behavioral problems and also high blood pressure. High sugar content can also cause caries. Anyway, how do you manage obesity? Now, first and foremost is the diet. Second, we need to check our physical activities, and you have to make sure that our children are taking a balanced diet which are full of nutrients and good nutrients, and taking in healthy snacks and nuts, and also avoiding all kinds of junk foods. We should include plenty of water in our diet and also plan meals in advance, having set meal times, avoid all these too many cheat days, and of course, increase the overall activities, physical activities, and of course, few of them would need treating the underlying cause. Now, choosing a healthy diet, in a nutshell, there are criteria of having choosing a healthy food. That means the calories that should come from carbs should be approximately 50 to 55 to 75%, and from proteins 10 to 15%, and 15 to 30 should come from fats. Now, this is the rough calculations in a balanced diet, but what is the thumbs rule is that you choose a diet which this is a food pyramid. You choose a diet where you have a liberal amount of intake of unprocessed food, the raw foods like vegetables, wholesome cereals, and as you grow top of the pyramids, you have fats and sugars. Those things needs to be consumed in very less quantity and as and when required. So the portion control is important, and the portion what you see here in the pyramid is something that you should follow to maintain a good balanced diet. Now, coming to just a thumbs rule, if you have an eating plate, children, then if you look at the whole plate here, then make sure your meal should have at least half of your meal should include vegetables and fruits together. And if you look at the 1/4 should have a protein content, good lean protein, and 1/4 having grains. And to make it, to add to it, you should have consumed a lot of water. Oil should be in a very minimum amount, and of course, you need to be active. Now, the most important part of the food which actually leads to obesity are the snacks. So we tend to snacks with high calorie food. We can replace them with much healthier options which you can try at home. For example, if instead of going for something like burgers or pizzas, why not try our idli? Idli is a very low calorie food, very healthy food, very healthy, good in nutrition, good in nutrients. So something we can just try, just to give you a glimpse of few of the healthier options which you can try. Oats chilas, of course, is something many of us do cook, but they are also healthier options rather than going for something like Maggie and burgers. and other high junk foods. Makhanas, of course, fox nuts, what we say, is also full of good nutrition that we see here, the good amount of proteins, the calories, and it has a very high content of fibers, which are good for your stomach. So it's good basically when you're replacing your junk food with something more nutritionally better, and they are low calories and has a lot of good nutrients packed into it. So there are ways where we can reduce all these junk foods. School comes in very important because school-based programs, shape a lot of dietary habits. Sale of junk food should be banned in and around the vicinity of schools. Uh, I was like very sad to see that even in Mahadev Villa school, we have seen the chips being sold in the school campus itself. But I just request, ma'am, and I request the principal not to allow this, because our pediatrics association has clearly set the guidelines that these junk food should not be sold in the school or in the campus or even in the vicinity of such things. So there should be policies in school regulating the, regarding banning all these products. And of course, the school should take actively involvement in, promoting healthy food options in the canteens also, and also, I'm sure it's being done in the school here. So in the US, this was the movement that was launched by Michelle Obama in US. It was called the Let's Move movement, and it was something like let's move salad bars to the school. So she introduced, something called salad bars, and that was given to school children to raise awareness in school canteens in order to improve the children's nutrition. So healthy foods were being offered, and that really works in curbing the obesity and also the overweight. So we also need to have food labeling. How many of children, how many of the students do you ever see the label of food when you pick up food in the malls or any malls or any kind of grocery shop when you go? Has any children practices this, that you check the labels of what food you are buying or in the grocery list, and what food are you packing back home?
No, sir, I just check the expiry date and bring it.
Rest of you?
See the dates, the expiry dates, like till the time they are working, or we can consume them and bring it.
Ma'am, I also don't say, I just check the expiry date.
This is helpful. फिर उड़ गया सीधा सीधा देखो ना बेटा सीधा
Sir, are you there?
Sir, you are not audible.
ये करवाना जल्दी से Can you?
Very faintly, sir. You are not audible properly. We can open the session to interactions. If you have questions, you can raise your hands.
Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, now you can be audible, sir. Sir, can we open the session to question answers now? Can they ask questions to you?
Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you now.
Okay.
I'll just do the sharing. Why it's not sharing? This one. सीधा देखना बेटा.
Sir, you'll have to start screen sharing.
Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can hear
Okay,
you.
sorry for all the technical issues. I think, where have we left? Can you see my slides moving?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can
So I
see.
think, did you listen to this part or like?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We did.
Oh, okay, okay. So I'll just go ahead again. So what I was telling you, one of the common reasons for these intake of high calorie food is because of the junk food that we taken, especially the children, and that can be replaced with much easier and much healthier options what we can do at home, like the oats chilas, the idlis, we can have makhanas. And there are many other foods which are low calories but yet very healthy, and it's something that needs to be promoted. So school programs are something that needs to implement certain banning of all these junk foods in the school campus or in the vicinity, and school should also promote healthy food in the school canteens. This was set as an example by Michelle Obama, salad bars to schools, moving in for healthier food options. And of course, food labeling, I was asking the students whether they ever check the label of food what they buy from the grocery or any malls. So it was seen in a lot of studies, especially one of the study that was done in Delhi that says that only 1/4 of the children, that is only approximately 25% of children, looked at the content and the label of the food. The rest, none of children rather care of what food they're eating and what is the calorie content. So there should be also guidelines regarding advertisements, which has an strong impact on dietary intake. The junk foods may be is unhealthy food, and they are likely to be associated with obesity. So Indian Academy of Pediatrics regulates or recommends legal ban on such screen media or other advertisements of all junk foods in the channel, website, social media, because they have a lot of impact on children and growing children. That should be done. So marketing guidelines should also be issued. Our IAP also suggests giving a lot of tax discounts on healthier foods and beverages, and putting a high taxes on junk foods that would curb the sale of all these kinds of food. So, and also ensuring availability of a lot of variety of healthy food menu at the market, at the restaurants, and also in your school canteens. Of course, school-based interventions are very effective, and all schools should promote balanced diets and highlight the wrong effects of unhealthy food in a structured curriculum. And nutritional education is very important because that will increase the awareness among children about the healthy diet and also about the junk foods. So parents also should take kind of a lot of cue from the schools and also follow healthy diets and serve as a role model for their children. There are also certain practice guidelines for children and parents regarding caffeinated drinks. Avoid all these caffeine containing drinks completely in children and adolescents. Tea, coffee should be completely, avoided in children less than 5 years. And for adolescents, maximum 1 cup per day may be allowed. And regarding fruit juices, it should be not be given to children less than 2 years. But then rather, children should be encouraged to drink lots of water, milk, buttermilk, coconut water, and other homemade fruit juices, not the packed one. So the homemade juices, they are much healthier options than all these packaged fruit juices. So children should be encouraged to carry water bottles, and school should have good availability of drinking water facilities, and children should be encouraged to take a lot of whole fruits rather than just juices. And Children should limit consumption of junk food at home or outside, not more than once per week. If at all, it has to be taken, and it should be in a very minimum amount. So we should also promote home cooked foods with limited amount of sugars and trans fats. Of course, our lunch boxes should contain healthier options which we carry to school, and this should be emphasized in your school day-to-day counseling. Fruit juices should be restricted as much as possible. Most of the available juices or the canned juices or the packed juices are actually very sweetened beverages that actually contains very less amount of fruits, but then mostly packed with a lot of calories and sugars. Now coming to physical activities. So children, it is the recommendations from the World Health Organization that you should at least have a good 30 minutes of moderate exercises for all ages. Children should have extra 20 minutes more of vigorous exercise. I can understand the school being closed. This has been, taken a back seat, but then we should promote as much as possible these regular active physical activity, even at home, and also when the school reopens, these children should be have, these physical exercise should be included as well. We should limit the screen time to less than 2 hours per day. TV and mobile has become kind of must in every families, but I'm sure the parents should have a supervision so that the viewing hours should not get prolonged, and it should be restricted and it should be monitored. So on the whole, the key points are obesity is a global issue, and there are many causes of which the dietary factor is very important. Obesity in turns can lead to a lot of other health issues in future. Junk foods and unhealthy lifestyles are causing obesity in children. So we should have a healthy, balanced diet and also improved physical activities. And these are key to active, healthy life. So any points, any questions from the children or from the parents, I would be happy to take it. Hello.
Yes, children, if you
Any
have
questions from anybody? So I'll be taking 1 or 2 questions and can then, straight away move on.
Yes, sir, sure. Children, if you have questions, kindly raise your hands virtually. Yes, Paramesh's hand is raised.
Yes, sir. It's just something about me. Like, I make sure not to take excess of calories and maintain a diet, but I have a lack of physical activity in life. So, like, will that result in a lot of obesity because I maintain a diet? Hello, sir.
Sir, we have a question from Paramesh.
Ma'am, 1 sec.
Okay, sir.
Yes, ma'am. What was the question, ma'am?
Yes, Paramesh, could you please repeat your question?
Yes, ma'am. So, sir, I make sure to maintain a diet and not take excessive calories, but I have a lack of physical activity in life. So, can that like cause obesity because I like make sure to have a diet?
Yeah. Actually, what we need to understand is that it's an interplay of a lot of factors which causes obesity. It's the intake and output kind of thing. So the amount of calories what we are taking in as food and the amount of activities that burns your calories, that the balance of which actually leads to whether you are in calorie deficit or you are having a calorie excess. For example, I'll just give you an example. For a sedentary lifestyle, for an normal humans, we take in around 1800 calories to 2000 calories. That is sufficient. But if you look at the players, if you look at the professional sportsmen, they take in very high calories. they take in 4,000 calories, 5,000 calories, but still they are not fat. They are very lean, they are very active. That's because they are involved in huge physical activities, and that includes a very active life. A lot of exercise and sports itself requires all these training, which loses a lot of calories. So it's not just what you take in. First of all, you should understand what calories you are taking, how much calories you are taking, and how much activities and how much calories you are spending. So it depends on the balance of which. For example, if you're taking very huge calories and if you're not doing enough physical activities, so excess calories will be deposited in your body as fats. So this will lead to obesity, of course. But if you're taking in less calories and you are, very active and you're spending a lot of your calories in your activity, then you will be in calorie deficit. That means you will lose your weight. So even if you're taking a balanced diet, but if you're not having enough physical activities, depends on how much calories you're taking and how much calories you're spending per day will tell you whether you are having excess of calorie or not. So if you are having an absolutely sedentary lifestyle, so this physical activity, which is very restricted, can still have more calories deposited in your body, can still lead to obesity.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Manya, your hand is also raised. We can't hear you, dear. Can't hear you, Manya.
Please unmute. Manya, can you please unmute yourself?
Could you check your audio once, Manya, because you're not audible. Sir, I think she's typing out her question in the chat box.
Okay, so I'll just check. So what can I chat box now?
No, Mrs. Damani, we can't hear you. Yes, Manya, could you please type out your question in the chat box? And until then, if somebody else has a question, we can take that. Anybody else with any questions?
I can't see the question.
Students, are you there?
Ma'am, can you see the question from the chat box and let me know so that?
Yes, yes, sir, sure. So Manya is saying that she has 2 questions.
Okay. Yes, Manya, can you read out the questions for me, ma'am?
Yes, yes, sir. She's typing.
Okay, there is one chat box. Oh, Manya has got 2 questions. She says she is not yet typed.
She's typing, yeah, she's typing.
Okay. Any other question? Meanwhile, anybody wants to know anything about, nutritions or anything about junks?
Or even if you would like to share something with regarding your diet.
Regarding that, I said, it's important that we maintain a good, balanced, healthy diet, and that should have a lot of wholesome food, mixed cereals, fruits and vegetables, lean protein, good protein, which is important. And of course, fat. We have a myth of that fat is bad for your health. It's not. Let me tell you, fats are of 2 types. Some are healthy fats, some are trans fats, which are not healthy for your body. So when you're taking in healthy fats, it's actually good for your body. Fat has a lot of requirements in your body. Fats gives you lots of good calories. Fats can have a lot of functions in your brain, nerve tissues, and your cell membrane. So fats are important, but it depends on what fats you're taking. For example, if you're taking nuts, or most of the nuts are very healthy. They have a lot number of fats. They have good cholesterol. If you're taking whole egg contains, in fact, the yolk contains a lot of cholesterol. But these are good fats which should be taken by everybody. And also regarding proteins, the lean meats are very good. They give you a good protein, which is good for your body growth, for your muscle growth. I think that's important to understand that. So anything in excess is bad. So that is something we should understand. So it should be a balance between carbs, proteins, and fats. And also our meal should have a good required amount of vitamins, minerals. Those should be there. So when you're taking, suppose you're taking a glass of Coke, so that will pack you with a lot of calories. But is it a good calories? No, it's not a good calories because it only gives you a lot of sugars. So although although it gives you the energy, it doesn't give you the nutrients. What is more important, that your food should have healthy components, healthy nutrients in terms of fats, proteins, carbs, as well as vitamins, minerals, and other essential elements that should be there in diet. So I think overall that should be important, and children should understand that how much to eat and what to avoid, and that is something where teachers can play a role, encouraging children to take up healthy diet. And of course the parents themselves at home should kind of encourage the children to take in more vegetables, fruits, and all healthier options rather than going for these packaged and processed food. Okay, Amanya, have you come up with any questions?
Yes, sir. She has typed. This is essentially from Manya's mother.
Okay.
So she says that Manya usually complains that she has a stomach ache, especially after drinking milk. So does
Okay.
this mean that she is lactose intolerant? And if yes, then what can be the substitute for milk?
Okay, lactose intolerance is very, very common. Many of us has lactase deficiency in our gut. That is one of the enzymes that is responsible for digesting the lactose. So people who do not have this proper has lactase deficiency, or has rather lactose intolerance, may not be able to tolerate milk properly. In that case, it's better to take, if at all somebody wants to take lactose, if at all wants to take milk, there are lactose free milk available as a formula milk like Zerolac, and there are many other isomils. There are many milk available which has zero lactose. So those are possible if you want to take milk at all. Otherwise, somebody who has lactose intolerance will have problem whenever he takes milk. So I think if somebody has a problem with milk digestion, it's better to avoid. And if at all you want, then of course lactose-free formulas are available.
Thank you, sir. The second question from Manya's mother is
we are vegetarians.
Yeah.
So what can be a good source of proteins in everybody's everyday diet other than dal? Okay, vegetarians have the options of choosing proteins from the vegetarian foods. So now let me tell you the proteins that is available are first class proteins and second class proteins. Now I do understand that somebody taking non-veg food will have the meat proteins, which are very high in essential amino acids, which are first class proteins, which we say. But of course, somebody who are vegetarians can also have this kind of protein availability, but the sources should be dal. The sources can be paneer. You can take milk, and if you are allowed to take eggs, of course, eggs is very good source of protein. And if you're taking soybeans are a very, very good source of proteins. Dals, most of the pulses, they're very good source of proteins. Paneer, I'm sure you take paneer, cheese, dals, soybean chunks. They are very high in protein content. So still you can have a good amount of proteins, even if you are a vegetarian. Okay, any other questions from anybody?
Yes, Trishani.
Yes, sir. I wanted to ask about the meal times. You said we should maintain good meal times, but because of classes, sometimes my breakfast, lunch, they move like very late. So like sometimes I have breakfast at 12:30, like lunch moves to 3:30 p.m. It's very late. So like.
Okay, Trishani, we should understand that our body system works in a very biological clock ways, right? So when I say you should have a fixed time for sleeping, you should have a fixed timing, where you should go to bed, get up early. So even for meals, there should be fixed set times for your meal, so that when you're having a meal at a timely intervention or timely intervals, then your body adapts like that, your digestive system adapts accordingly, and it tries to digest. If you're taking food very irregularly, so that will pose digestive issues. The body will not be able to digest your food if you are not regular on your meals first. So meal time should be good, it should be timely. And missing breakfast is really bad, because I would recommend, even if you have morning classes, please make sure you have your breakfast. Breakfast is the first meal of the day, and it should be a well-packed food. It should be have a very good food, high in proteins and calories, so that that kicks the day off, and you are able to, you know, spend the half the day, you know, with good amount of calories for you to take on the day-to-day life, right? So I think you should make a time so that you get up early and you try to have whatever breakfast, good breakfast you have at home. Never be empty stomach till 12 o'clock or 2 o'clock, because that will affect your health. Because overnight, if you're not eating, that is breaking fast. Means when you are you're getting up in the morning, you should break your fast. That's the idea of breakfast. So your body has been hungry overnight. So when you're getting up in the morning, you should have some food. So that will be your fuel for the day. So you should have your breakfast no matter what. And school should have, you know, timing for a meal. I am sure they give lunch breaks. So that should be ensured that you're having a proper meal at lunch break. But I'm sure like it's there in your school.
Thank you,
Yes,
sir. One final question from Harnoor.
Harnoor.
Yes.
Yes, Harnoor.
Sir, actually, I do a lot of physical activities, like I play basketball, I do cycling, but then also I'm not gaining my height.
Okay. See, physical activity is very good. What your height will be, it depends on a lot of factors, beta. It depends on your height of your parents, your genetic structure, your family height would dictate the genetic height potential which you have. For example, parents who are very tall, their children tend to be tall because of the genetic genes that they carry of the tall parents, right? So I don't know how tall your parents are. So actually, when we calculate the height, we see the parental height, the mother's height, the father's height, and then we calculate the mid-parental height. And that is how we rather kind of predict what your height will be. So one is the genetic height or the genetic potential over which we do not have any control, right? Like Sachin Tendulkar is short, Amir Khan is short. They have enough money to buy medicine to get taller, but they still remain short because that's what their genetic height is. They can't do much about it. But then if you have Amitabh Bachchan's son, he's tall, Amitabh Bachchan is tall, so his son Abhishek is very tall. So that is the genetic potential he has. So how short or tall you will be depends on your genetic potential. Of course, nutrition plays a very good role if you have the potential, and if you are able to have good diet, you have the potential to grow. But right now, how old are you, Harnoor?
Sir, I'm 10 years old.
10 years. So you have still a lot of time for your height growth. There will be growth spurt. What we say growth spurt is a time when you will have a sudden growth due to the hormonal factors that will come into your body in a couple of years from now, maybe 11, 12 years. This is the time where you will grow a lot. You'll have a certain growth in terms of height, your development, your lot of physical aspects that will grow as a girl, right, Harnoor?
Yes.
So you are too young now. You still have the potential to grow in height and, of course, even in weight. So just make sure you're having a good nutrition. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm sure each one of us will have something to take away from this wonderful session. And most importantly, perhaps we will think twice before picking up our mobile phones and clicking on Swiggy or Zomato.
Yeah, ma'am.
Also, it seems like all our problems start with C at the moment, COVID, calories.
Yeah. Ma'am, a few things on adolescent. Can we move on to adolescent health issues? Just rush through a few of the slides.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sure.
Okay, so I'll just share. Sita, how to share?
I think you are sharing.
Okay, are you able to see my screen, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can see.
Moving?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll just finish some of these slides. I guess we are late because of some technical issues. I'll just rush through some of the slides. Okay, next move on to the adolescent health issues. Adolescent is a time, as stated by the World Health Organization, is the age between 10 to 19 years. And this is a very, very, very complex and very important phase of your life, because it's a time where you have the rapid formative phase of development, the lot of physical developments, cognitive development, social and emotional and sexual development that takes place in this phase. Children tend to take up new responsibilities and tries to be self independence. They search for identity, learn to apply certain values, and they develop skills and become responsible adults. So coming to Indian data, India has the largest adolescent population in the world. So there are 253 million adolescents in this age group, almost 22% of the population, which is quite good, quite high. So they are often thought to be a very healthy group, because in this age you don't suffer from too many disease. But promoting the healthy choices among adults remains very, very important if you want to have a productive life into adulthood. And a lot of government policies and programs should should focus on these developments. So there are a lot of issues that adolescent phase develops. They are mainly in relation to the treatable health problems, the pregnancies, a lot of sexually transmitted infections, nutritional problems like malnutrition, anemias, overweight, a lot of addictions like alcohol, tobacco and drug abuse, mental health issues, and violence and injuries are some very common problems that adolescents face. And this actually demands a lot of focused attention. If you look at the top 10 causes of death among adolescents, then you see the road injury, the HIV, the AIDS, self-injury, infections, diarrheal disease, suicides. These are some of the very common problems that leads to death in case of adolescents. So among the common problems of them are road traffic accidents. Of course, adolescence tends to be very rash. The rash driving, driving without license, drinking and driving, using mobile phones during driving. These are some of the factors that causes injuries and even death in adolescent phase. So they can be prevented by strict enforcement of laws, and that should insist on the need for safety rules to be followed by adolescents. Second, there is a adolescent nutritional health issues. There are a lot of studies which says that these children, these adolescent phase children has a deficiency in terms of minerals and vitamins. There are deficiencies, they are thin. Almost 56% of girls and 30% boys were found to be anemic. Many boys and girls had issues in relation to obesity, and also many of them were overweight, many of them were underweight. So these are some of the issues that needs consideration. Obesity and malnutrition we have already discussed in details. So when we talk about obesity, there are also children from poor social economic group which has undernutrition, are very thin, nutritionally deprived. They also in turn have developed poor development of physical, mental, and sexual growth. Now, violence is very common in children. This is because of the kind of aggression in teenagers that we see. This in turn is because of a lot of hormones that is secreted in your body in this phase of your life. And this makes the adolescents, very aggressive in behavior that leads to violence. And this can disturb your life, education, career. It can also lead to untimely death. So if you see a lot of studies says 1 in 10 girls, also undergo a lot of abuse. And this is something very serious. And mostly males are also involved in the problems of violence. Mental health is very important in this phase of life because children undergo a lot of physical changes, a lot of psychological changes in this phase of their life. If you look at the WHO data, depression is very important. Depression is very common in this phase in teenagers. There are a lot of factors that could be cause this mental health problems, the violence, the depression, teenage mental health issues are there. A lot of anxiety problems, poor body image, self-esteem. They have the suicidal behavior, adjustment issues. They're some of the mental health problems they face. Social media, of course, has become widely used and abused in recent times. People use mass media too often, and it is very important because the habit picking and the lifestyle pattern of adolescent depends on this. Television viewing has a lot of impact on the growth of the adolescents. They lead to overweight, poor fitness, smoking and alcohol, behavioral issues, and also physical aggression is seen as an impact of television and social media. Now, substance abuse is quite common. A lot of data which shows the adolescent boys and girls, they both consume alcohol in this phase of their life. More in boys, as you can see from the data. Even tobacco use is common, mostly in boys. And there are age of 12 to 13 where this is quite commonly the time for initiation of tobacco abuse. Also, these addictions leads to accidents, injuries, violence, sex trading, and some kinds of STD and HIV. Now, coming to reproductive and sexual health, there are studies that shows adolescents do not have proper knowledge about the infections. They lack the knowledge. So it is the school we should take the initiative of all the sex education in this phase of life because of the curiosity about the opposite sex. They start showing interest, and the media also plays a role in exposing them to explicit materials which makes them the victim of sexual violence. So I think this is a phase that needs to be handled very carefully by the teachers, by the parents. And of course, if you look at the sexually transmitted disease, more than 2 million people, mainly adolescents, are living with HIV. And of course, the factors being the drugs, the use of needle, the unsafe, unprotected sex, these are some of the very common reasons for that. Also, there are also a lot of gynae problems in females like PCOS, menstrual problems that needs to be addressed. Government has certain plannings and programs for this. There is a National Family Health Survey that looks into all these things. And this is very important, investing in adolescent health, because that will dictate the economic developments of India. In 2014, there was another program that was, launched by the Minister of Health and Family Welfare. This was called Rashtriya Kishore Swasthya Karyakram. Now, this is mainly focusing on adolescent health, mainly the sexual health. So, government has certain services for the adolescent, like iron and folic acid supplementations, the deworming, which is done biannually, nutritional counseling, and certain, yojana that is there for the nutritional and health of the girls, especially. The COVID-19 has had a lot of mental health issues in children. This pandemic has been, modified our daily routine. That has led to a lot of psychological issues in children. Some may be more vulnerable, some may be less. We have had children with very less or no physical activities at home. With online teaching, this has rather increased, depression in children, a lot of psychological and behavioral issues, and also increasing the screen time without proper supervision has led to vulnerability to online offenders, frauds, and access to online explicit materials. So COVID-19 has had a bad impact on physical health, on exercises, and also on mental health. So the problems have been worsening of school performance, increased agitation, aggression is on the rise. So there are many challenges that adolescent health services we face. One is the fact that these groups, there are many services available, but they are not properly, awareness programs have not been there, services are not given proper training. So this has not reached to the extent of helping the young children. Adolescents are scared of revealing their problems to others, and also they have inhibitions being examined by the opposite sex health workers. There are clinics by government called adolescent friendly health clinics, but then they mainly targets the reproductive health and other health issues, but they need to be more focused. And there is also increasing pregnancies in adolescent, so that also needs to have a lot of challenges for the parenting. parents should be the first people who has the responsibility of breaking the cultural barriers, talking to the children, understanding the physical and the physiological changes and the consequences. So they should understand about the children's sexuality, and uh, proper education should be given at home, and of course also in the school, which plays a very important role. So most of the children's psychiatric disorders are unidentified because parents ignored them, or rather are negligent of their problems. So there are certain like recommendations like proper appropriate sex education in school and colleges, also awareness about the unwanted pregnancies, about these infections, and also the complications. Delay the age of marriage, that should be done through counseling and also law enforcement, and of course parental counseling and education. So educate adolescents and parents regarding the nutritional requirements for the growing children. Mental health services for psychological disorders and social misbehavior should
Can
be
I
employed.
interrupt you, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry to actually, we are running out of
Just
time.
one or two slides, ma'am. I'm just ending. So there should be a lot of laws that enforce, for regular traffic rules, prohibiting the sale of tobacco, alcohols, that should be done, and restricting such advertisements of junk foods, and coverage of all the adolescent health-friendly clinics. And there should be screening for these on a regular basis of adolescent for any health-related issues in school and in clinics. And to conclude, we should have a all multidimensional approach to deal with adolescent health problems, mental behavior, and other things. And this is all from my side. Thank you so much. And thank you for your kind listening. But then because of the technical issues, I think we lost a lot of time. But nevertheless, we've just finished on
Yes.
time. Ma'am, can we have one or two questions if you want?
Sir, I don't think we have time for questions. If there are any questions, then we will share it with you via mail.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you so much,
Thank
sir.
you so much.
I would request Paramish to deliver the vote of thanks, please.
Yes, ma'am. With that, we come to the end of the session with the
Yeah, thank you.
anticipation that we get to be a part of many such enriching sessions in the future. Thank you so much, sir, for empowering us. I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to Principal Ma'am and Vice Principal Ma'am, without whose initiative and guidance, none of this would have been possible. Thank you for being our pillars. I would also like to thank all the teachers for being a part of this session. I would also like to acknowledge the support extended by the tech team. Without their constant assistance, this event wouldn't have been so successful. Last, but definitely not the least, I would like to thank our lovely audience whose active engagement and interaction enlivened today's session.
I would request you all to kindly fill the form that has been circulated. It's there in the chat box. Please fill the form before you exit from the session.